on the unceded lands of the Palawa people. I open today's meeting at 1 p.m. Thank you. In the opening of today's meeting at agenda item number 1, I do note that there are some apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Professor Raze and Councillor Dawkins. At agenda item number 2, we have mayoral acknowledgements. Now, we do have an acknowledgement to make here today. So the City of Launceston was recently named the winner of the Technology and Digital Innovation category in the Tasmanian Planning Institute of Australia Awards for Planning Excellence. The City of Launceston was recognised for the development of its 3D model, a computer-based simulation of Launceston created from approximately 9,000 aerial photographs of the city. So first developed in 2016, the 3D model was significantly updated in 2022 and is now used by the council as a tool for strategic planning and data visualisation. The award submission was developed by the council's strategy, economic development and analytics team in partnership with our planning team. Today, we do have 2 representatives of those teams here with us. We have Jaden from Planning and Oka from CEDA. So if those gentlemen would like to come forward, we do have an award for you. Where is the award? Is the award here? It was on my desk getting cleaned. So if we'll come forward, we'll start with a handshake. Thanks, neighbour. Cool. Thank you. A great example of how Launceston continues to pave the way in innovation. Okay, as we're reaching for that one, we have at agenda item number 3, the declarations of interest. So as a councillor, we must declare any interests that the councillor has in a matter before any of those decisions on the matter commences. Do we have any confirmation, any declarations of interest? There being none, and having been handed the award, I would just like to hand this one over to the gents. Congratulations again. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, looking to agenda item number 4, which is confirmation of minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the City of Launceston Council held on the 8th of February be confirmed as true and correct record. Do we have somebody to move the minutes? Councillor Gibson, a seconder. Councillor Palmer, all of those in favour? All of those against? Councillor Pentridge against. We have 4, Mackenzie, Walker, Kai, Britton, McMahon, Palmer, Harris, Gibson and myself. Okay, agenda item number 5 is Council Workshops 5.1. Council Workshops from the 8th of February to the 15th of February. Recommendation is that Council notes the Council Workshops conducted and attended since the last Council meeting for these purposes described. 24 prioritisation, resourcing annual plan and capital works program, Launceston Heritage List Review, Patterson Street East Car Park mural project, cleaning activities including graffiti, Northern Tasmanian Cricket Association operations. There was an agreement for the protrusion over the footpath at 17 Patterson Street in Launceston. There was conversations around that. Update on the implementation of City Heart 2 and the Tamar Estuary developments. Do I have somebody to move the recommendation? Councillor Britton, a seconder. Councillor Harris. Councillor Britton, would you like to speak to any? Councillor Harris? Any comments around the table around the conducted workshops? Councillor Kai?
I'd like to thank Jess for bringing the Heritage List Review to date, and also what a fabulous job the heritage officers have been doing with that review. And yeah, no, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Kai. Any further comments? Anything to close? Councillor Britton is the mover. Okay, there being none. All those in favour? That is all councillors present. The motion is carried. Agenda item number 6, we don't have any councillors' leave of absence applications identified as a part of this agenda. Moving to number 7, community reports. We have 2 community reports to be presented to us today. At 7.1, we have the community report with Michael and Stephen, who are presenting to us around the Female Football Initiative. I can see Michael here.
Thanks so much for giving me the time to speak about the Female Football Initiative. A group of 3 gentlemen last year, myself, Chris Rademacher and Stephen Pearce, got together because we wanted to do something different for females in relation to football. So when I talk football, I'm talking soccer. So what has happened in the past, like girls tend to get put aside and here you go, you get a coach and it's usually, you know, a dad and mum, and they don't actually get the tuition that they, I suppose, need to progress. So what we did was opened up an academy-style program, but I wouldn't say fully, you know, like a full-style academy program for any girl between the ages of, it started off at 10 to 14, but we've gone now to 8 to 14. And we offer, like I'm a C licensed coach and the others are B and C, which is B's one level off A, which is the best coaching level in Australia. And we offer these girls playing quality sessions throughout, which they wouldn't normally get. And we also, the difference that we offer is we provide them with education around mental health and we also education around injury prevention. So my background is in exercise physiology, and I'm sure you've probably heard how females are 50% more likely to do an ACL, which can end up with about 12 to 18 months on the sidelines. And so we put a lot of effort into doing the appropriate warm-up, but also some strength work with these girls to sort of try and prevent, I suppose, that type of thing happening. But it's also early lessons for them at a young age. So as they progress into those more higher risk groups, when they start to really grow, that we can maybe prevent 1 or 2 from having an ACL injury. The other side of it is the mental health, and I have, luckily enough, a psychologist that comes out and talks to the girls. So she did 3 sessions with the girls last year, and you know, just giving them stuff around self-confidence, belief, and just all the things that they face as young girls and teenagers. So yeah, just trying to give them the tools so they can then get through, I suppose, the tough part of moving from primary school to high school, which is very tough for young girls. So with those 2 in there, we did a few other things last year, but this year we've just gone with the mental health and the injury prevention because we feel that's the 2 areas that we really need to concentrate on. What we've done this year too, as we've started to progress the Female Football Initiative, we've actually got a female coach now. So what we found last year, whilst we were coaching and that, the girls were okay talking to us and so forth, but when we bring out the allied health professionals who were all female, it was like, you know, a rock star was coming in. So the girls just really bonded really well with the female allied health professionals. And what we really want to try and achieve in the future is it to become all female, and Steve, Chris and myself take a step back and just be the administrators of it all. So I suppose the thing about it, and you might not be aware, is if girls tend to become quite good at football, they tend to have to then play with boys. What we'd really like as a huge vision is to have girls progress playing with girls, training with girls. Now, we're only a small part of that, and other clubs now have actually realised, they need female football programs just for females instead of trying to throw them across to the boys. Because just personalities and the pressures of females playing with boys is I suppose very difficult for them. Whether they get the ball past them or not is a big question around that, and whether they can develop as they should, it's questionable. So we just try and develop a safe environment that's challenging for the girls, challenges them physically, but also emotionally from an education point of view. And our catchphrase, I suppose, is better footballers, better people, and in the people. So we would just want them to use the tools they get from us in their day-to-day life, and hopefully, they can use that as they progress into their work life as well. Okay, so that's just a small snippet of what we do. Thanks so much for your time.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael, and thank you for the work and the advocacy that you're doing in that space as well. Our second at 7.2 community report is with Emily Chase, the CEO with Drug Education Network. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak to you all today. So the Drug Education Network, or DEN as we refer to ourselves, is Tasmania's trusted alcohol and other drug health promotion and education service. The state government funds us to deliver a range of health promotion, prevention and early intervention, education and training activities to prevent and reduce the harms from alcohol, tobacco and other drugs. As a very small not-for-profit, we pride ourselves on our professionalism, integrity and accountability when delivering services to the Tasmanian community. And all of our activities are informed by current research and then contextualised for the Tasmanian audience. DEN works collaboratively with a range of organisations across the health, education, justice and community sectors to develop and implement evidence-based, innovative and effective solutions to prevent harms. We have a remit to provide support to the whole of population across all regions of Tasmania. Initiatives for preventing harm from alcohol and other drugs have been evidenced to deliver a significant return on investment. In a 2017 systemic review of return on investment for public health interventions across 7 countries, including Australia, Masters, Anwar, Collins and others found that for every $1 spent on effective health promotion and prevention initiatives, there are long-term financial savings of up to $14 through reduced need for treatment and for other indirect costs such as unemployment. DEN service provision is effective in school drug education, impactful in upskilling and developing the primary health, alcohol and other drug and community sector workforces, and tackles reducing stigma and discrimination through education and leadership. Just last year, DEN delivered school drug education sessions to almost 3,000 school students across Tasmania from grades 5 to 12, reaching into more than 10% of all schools. In addition to this, we provided training and education to 150 teachers and school support staff, equipping them with the knowledge and skills required to engage in conversations with students around alcohol and other drugs. DEN provides training and education in workplaces across Tasmania. These training sessions aim to reduce stigma around substance use through increased knowledge and understanding of drugs, drug use and any associated health outcomes. Last year, DEN delivered 38 education sessions and training workshops within workplaces to almost 500 participants. These included Utah's Bachelor of Education students, Catholic Care youth workers, and Carinya Young Mums and Bubs program, just to name a few. In addition to education and training, we provide resources for the Tasmanian community through our online platform, the Community Online Drug Education, or CODE, and that can be found at code.den.org.au, or through our website. These resources provide up-to-date information for those who need it, when they need it, in a confidential manner. In 2023, we've provided over 6,500 digital and hard copy resources to the Tasmanian community. So I've left a little bit of a goodie bag for each of you today. You'll find in that a catalogue of our training program, both within schools and in workplaces, as well as just a taster of some of our resources. You can, of course, go on our website, den.org.au, to order more copies of resources and have a look what else is available. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Emily. And again, thank you to you for the work and the advocacy that you're doing in that space as well. Thank you. As we move through the agenda now to public question time at number 8, 8.1, we have public questions on notice. 8.1.1, we have a question from Andrew Whitehead around parking infringement procedures. 8.1.2, Ross Lewis, is inclusive playgrounds. And that is the two questions for this agenda. 8.2 is public questions without notice, throwing to the CEO for the rules, regulations and guidelines.
So whether asking questions or making comment on an agenda item, you may not ask questions or enter into debate with councillors or council officers. Your statement is not to be defamatory, inappropriate or abusive, or be intended to embarrass any person, including councillors or council officers. The Chair may direct you to stop speaking if you do not follow these rules, or if your statement repeats points that you have already made. Your respectful contribution is welcome and appreciated.
Thank you, CEO. Questions from the floor?
Mayor Robin Smith on behalf of Business and More Coffee Republic. I've been to council several times before over the years about several issues that relate to the Brisbane Street Mall, and I don't feel as if I've really got anywhere with any of them. I'll just list a few. The CCTV enhancements for blind spots, cleansing, the clock I mentioned end of last year, that's still well behind, out of time, it's an hour still. Plantings, greenery, something for kids' play activity, parking enhancements around. Don't seem to be getting anywhere. Just comes to nothing. Do you think going about it the wrong way is just, would a new general manager perhaps breathe new life into it? City Heart has moved on and finished. What's not getting away with anything?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for your questions and thank you for your advocacy around the CBD in particular. I think that we can note some of those workshops conducted around City Heart Project 2 has been a focus, and there are some more focuses that are coming through in those initiatives. Some small factors that I could say around the clock getting out of time, if this is something that we need to look, if it's an infrastructure problem, but otherwise the snap send solve that we can send through when it is out of time, it might be something that we have to remove, I'm not sure, but we can do some further investigation into the problems that we're having with that. We've had several conversations with our cleansing team, and we've taken on your petition that's also come forward, which will be presented to councillors for further investigation and conversation. So there are movements. I think that conversations we had with you at the end of last year around the initiation of the new tree and so forth, whilst that brought forward its own issues, was a huge step forward from our team. But there are conversations still happening in that space, and I do thank you for your continued questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question I have, this relates to parking traffic infringement. I received a parking infringement, and I have reason to question it. It's just for a highways code offence, parking meter expired. I did receive 2 within half an hour of each other for the same space, having not moved. I'm not sure if that's quite correct, but I notice you can't pay these online on the day they're issued. You have to wait until they're loaded. So if it's a weekend, you have to wait till a Monday or a long holiday. Then they get loaded in the system and then you can pay them. However, the 14 days appears to be fixed. So for example, I wanted to query and pay from the 7th of February this year. And today the system has already decided that 14 days has elapsed, although you couldn't pay it for 14 days. So it's not a true 14 days. And I wonder if you could look at adjusting those days that relate to when they can be paid rather than the actual days of being elapsed. And if we do, which I want to do because one of these is clearly, on my reading, incorrectly issued, because it would be double jeopardy to get the same fine within half an hour for the same offence when you're sitting there. There is a 28-day period, so after the 14 days, another 14 days, it's 28 days for the an appeal to have it appealed. If we question the first infringement, do you stop the clock on that, and would that reflect on the amount of opportunity to take this for a magistrate's hearing, would that stop the clock
Yes.
on that? Because you may take 4 weeks to respond to the initial
Yes.
query, and that would preclude us then, if the response wasn't favourable, we would then have lost our exercisability to then elect a court. So you would.
Yes, the clock does pause, yes. And that is a recommendation that we come to anybody that feels that their infringement, that they have something that is unjust or they have a good reason, absolutely go through the withdrawal process online. And as that is reviewed, the clock is paused, yes, before you'd even have to think about any sort of appeal mechanism. Go through the withdrawal process first.
So as the process is, I just want to be quite clear that the process, once we've dealt with the council, it is then a matter for the magistrates' court. That appeal period, that holding of those timelines is respected by the court if that is given by the council. So if you stop the clock, the court will respect that clock will stop.
Oh, I just have to take that one on notice to get the actual legal act and how we incorporate that with the state government and the judicial process. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head what that looks like, but I could have an officer follow that up directly. I do know that we pause the clock, though. I would assume common sense would hope that it would be paused altogether.
Thank you. And back to the first part that I mentioned, you can't actually pay an infringement. So if I got one, whatever time this was, 10 o'clock in the morning, you can't pay it till at least sometime after council opens the next day. If you were to log back in to pay it, it couldn't be paid because it doesn't really exist in the system. If it were a long weekend or a holiday or public, you couldn't. Could you perhaps make a comment about that, please?
Yeah, I'll take that one on notice also and look at what the process is. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Another question. The homeless strategy. It's a bit lost as to what the council is actually trying to achieve with the homeless strategy. And I get confused between what I know as the most visible homeless in Launceston, which is the street sleepers. But it seems the council is trying to encompass and cover quite a lot of homelessness that relates to domestic activities and people couch surfing things. And when I read it, I feel perhaps the council is aiming too broad, perhaps. Is it setting itself up to be the go-to agency that perhaps everyone is going to refer to? The remit to me is unlimited and it's going to expand. Just reading it, and I've only read the document once, to me it seems the council's admirably aiming high, but is it not aiming too high perhaps? And I feel the one I would tackle first, I'd expect you to be after those the council comes into action with, but could you speak a little bit more to help me to respond to that document, that strategy you're putting together? I just am at a loss what the council actually is aiming to do.
Well, with the statement of intent that we've released, that's what it is now looking for. It is looking for feedback. That's what it's been released to do, is to get feedback from it. And I think that the broad nature of the approach is because of the expectations that the community has perhaps expressed. So having that broad approach to it and now asking for feedback is exactly what you've just done. In your expectation of council now saying, well, we think that this approach is too broad, that is then for us to come and to have further conversations around and honing in onto what the expectation for local government and the City of Launceston Council to best resource is, and that's what this strategy going forward will be around, and that's what the initial point is at the moment, is for community consultation, as you've just done in this public forum.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Further questions from the floor?
I would like to thank the 4 councillors that voted against having the stadium transferred to Stadium Tasmania. Thank you for speaking up for us. There's a lot of people in Launceston that feel the same way. We do not want our stadium that was gifted to us, to the people of Launceston, being handed over to Stadiums Tasmania or the state government. Thank you very much. I'm also here regarding the Working with Vulnerable People card. Okay, so I'm going to hand this to you. and the front page is something from the Mercury. So last year, when it comes to working with vulnerable people cards, it says here, more disturbingly, another 38 previously approved individuals had their working with vulnerable people cards cancelled during this time. Under the last election, you promised us you would have this available.
Just a point of order. As the CEO did read out, this is not an opportunity to direct questions to councillors personally, and it is not a position to embarrass or to bring into question particular personnel around the table or in the room.
So does the Mayor support predatory behaviour towards young people? Yes or no?
No.
Then why do you have a councillor that has done this?
Point of order. Thank you.
So page 2 is a post from Amelia Pond that was put on Facebook, okay? I think
No,
you're well
point of
aware
order that this-
there are some
this
very
line-
hurt individuals because of you
This
and your
line of
actions.
questioning is against the
I
rules
think
and
the
regulations
post
that are
you
set
were
out
putting up are
by...
very
Can we please turn her
misrepresentative.
microphone off?
So you support
No.
predatory behaviour.
Thank you, Councillor Britton.
So you support predatory behaviour on this council. You are all complicit to this
No,
behaviour.
take the microphone
You
away,
are all
please, Councillor Britton.
complicit. You are not my council. You harm young people.
Now, excuse me, Jess. If you are going to conduct yourself in this manner,
No.
we will have to go to recess.
Listening to them. There are many comments like this on Facebook.
Okay, councillors, we're just going to take a moment of recess. If you feel comfortable to leave the room, we're going to have a break. We'll continue through the agenda now. Thank you, councillors. At number 9.1 with the Mayor's announcements, they're all dictated and written there in the publicly available agenda. But 10, councillor reports. Do we have any other councillor reports today? Councillor McMahon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick one. Last night I chaired the Seroptimus International of Launceston's 74th Annual General Meeting, and I'd just like to share with you all some of their accomplishments over the last 12 months. The club was inducted into the Tasmanian Honour Roll of Women. Out of 38 inductees, they were the only service club. They held a pamper day for women with a disability. The project was funded from prize money from their 2022 Best Practice Award for Recruitment and Retention. They also held a high tea, raising over $6,000 for their Premier Baby project. They also piloted a project to supply curtains and light bulbs for domestic violence survivors in public housing, and lobbied for a residential tenancy amendment for the inclusion of minimum window coverings for social housing properties, and a bill has now been passed for all future tenants. Late last year, they packaged up over 60 bags for Share the Dignity and also provided warm jackets to members who attended the Mission project that were in need during the winter months, and their Mother's Day raffle raised money for puffer jackets for women experiencing homelessness. And lastly, they continue to advocate for the long overdue development of a northern hospice, and this will continue to be a priority for them in 2024. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor McMahon. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to go back a bit. Last meeting, I and no other councillor made mention of the fact we had Festivali, and what a wonderful success it was. So I'd just like to thank our chairman, David Dunn, and the Festivali committee for what was a great 3-day food and wine expo here in Launceston, and certainly interstate media reports of it that I was reading really said how good it was. And so I think we should be proud of that. We had a bit of an interesting agenda last meeting, and probably no one bothered to stand to talk about it, but I think it is very well worthwhile just noting its success, and also the fact that it'll be on again next year. And of course, the City of Launceston was one of the major sponsors, along with the Tasmanian State Government. Along with yourself, I attended the 100th anniversary, or the 100-year celebration of the Launceston Rotary Club, one of 2 clubs that were established on 100 years ago here in Tasmania. And there's a bit of dispute about whether Hobart or Launceston was the first one chartered, but the Launceston Club will always say that they are the first Rotary Club in Tasmania. But more importantly, they're also the founding club for in excess of 30 other Rotary clubs that have been established in northern Tasmania. They all came out of that one club, and as at today, there would be about just under 30 of those, about 28 of those clubs still existing, with about 550 members. And so the good work that has started from that meeting in Launceston 100 years ago continues to this day, and hopefully will continue for the next 100 years or more as well. Service clubs do an awful lot of the heavy lifting to help the community in a way that is at no cost to the community. And, you know, from whether the very first project that the Launceston Rotary Club was handling in the Launceston floods in 1929 was handing out bedding and food to those who were affected by the flood. So they've been going for a very long time. But it was great to be there. The current club has, I think, 37 members, and hopefully that will see them continue on for another 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Pentridge.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, listening to Mr. Smith earlier on, and if I could suggest, wouldn't be so rude to suggest something, if we could just, I'm not asking for a solution, or, but could we take...
So Councillor Pentridge, this is just for community reports, but we can get to the question parts of things a little later in the agenda.
Oh, in that case, I'll let it to that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Any other community reports, just about activities of councillors? Okay, we'll move forward to questions from councillors. So 11.1, we have the questions on notice. 11.1.1, we have Councillor Kai's question around the City Park monkeys. We also have a question from Councillor Pentridge around staffing levels. And at 11.1.3, we have Councillor Gibson's question around Tasmanian Workers Memorial Project at the Elizabeth Gardens. Opening up now to the floor at 11.2, councillors' questions without notice, starting with Councillor Pentridge.
Thank you. It was brought to my attention that, and I'm not suggesting that we try and get a magic wand and just fix things, but if we could take note, we seem to spend a lot of time going round and round and round. Recently, some people approached the council about some untidy behaviour, undeveloped blocks of land, fire hazards and everything to do with it. They were told by our council that they couldn't, it wasn't their role, and that they should approach the environmental people, which they did. Environmental people then got back to them saying that they had contacted the council and were told that they couldn't give the names and addresses to the people who needed to be notified. Now, they're just going round and round. And we don't, like, I'm not saying that there's a solution, but if we could just record some of these things that seem to happen on a regular basis, and then maybe somehow or other, maybe when we tell people to ring someone else, it seems pointless to tell them to ring when it does a full circle, we won't give them the names and addresses of the people. So what if we could just record some of these things to see, is there a pattern?
Sure.
And is there something we can do to save a bit of time?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You didn't have any other questions without notice? Any other questions? Councillor Kai?
Thank you very much. My questions are relating to the change where the public no longer has access to representation submitted for development applications. So the first question is this just Launceston Council or is it council statewide?
So this stems from a conversation that Officer Mainsbridge brought to us around that they get a summary now. Not every representation goes out for consult. So I think the question is from Councillor Kai, is this a statewide local government act? And we can take that on notice and have a look if there's other councils that are doing that also, or if it's come through a recommendation from the governance of Elgato or so forth, but we can look further into that.
I've got quite a few. Do I just read it out and you just take it all on notice? I didn't have things printed today, sorry, so it's just on my notebook. That was question number one, was is this just Launceston or statewide? Question number two is, I was wondering who authorised this change. Question number 1, 2, 3, is there a legislation implementing this change? And if there was, I was wondering when this legislation was implemented.
Sure.
Next question is, this is more to do with how I found that most developers and representatives have spoken in favour of being able to read the full documents and have a chance to mediate a suitable outcome. And it's something that I've always encouraged developers to do, was to go and talk to their neighbours. So my last question would be, if it was implemented, for example, can councillors move a motion to revoke this change, or what the process is to have that change so that everyone can have access to those information if needed?
Sure.
Because sometimes I feel like, even though I do understand the council officers summarise all the planning points and put that down, but sometimes it might not just be a planning point. It could just be that they might want some fence screening, for example, sure. And if the developers are happy to actually say, you know what, even though it's not a planning issue, but I'm happy to put these screens for you, it's sort of a bit of a win-win in both situations, sure. or to both parties. So I feel that it should be something that either party should have access to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we'll take those to notice and we'll have a look into those and look into the efficiency of a summary compared to how you can individually look at each representation, noting that there's a lot of representations that are duplicated and also some that the planning scheme doesn't take into consideration. So that's a good point.
Yeah, but I do realise if they're duplicated, I think as a person who's reading them, I would say, oh, yeah, no, the same. But if you look at a neighbour, the neighbour on the west might have a different issue to the neighbour on the south, for example, and they might have an issue that might not be a planning issue, but it might be something easily fixed by the developer that he can then go and do. So, yeah.
No, thank you. Great. Any other further questions without notice? Councillor Walker.
Thank you. And I will reiterate those questions because I do wonder what the achievement is there really when people should be able to represent themselves in their own words, even if it's repetitive. You know, this is the price of democracy, you know, a little bit of paperwork. I'll also look forward to the answers there. I was walking past our water play fountain in Civic Square, I suppose in reference partly to Mr Smith's concerns about children play areas, and I did notice there was a dozen kids or so playing there. I'm not sure if something was on at the park. The library, but nice hot day, kids are loving it. But one of the parents did ask me how often is that facility cleaned. They did sort of feel as though maybe it could do with a little bit of a pressure spray or something like that. So it would be good to find out what the regimen is there. And I've also been contacted by someone in regards to the sort of death and injury of wildlife, especially up in Havelock Reserve, which at the end of Peel Street West, which I'm not sure if it's in Launceston's municipality or not. But in the case where there are wildlife being injured or under threat of injury, and it probably happens from time to time in a lot of different areas in Launceston, what is Launceston's council's response? Do we see it as part of our responsibility in terms of traffic speed, traffic management, perhaps speed humps? Because I think there are some speed humps in that area, but they're deemed as not being actually that efficient. So I suppose the question is specifically in regards to that area, if it is part of Launceston Council, I'm not quite sure where the boundary is up there, but more generally speaking, what is Council's responsibilities or responses? What levers do we have in terms of wildlife being injured?
I'm happy to take that one on notice, Councillor Walker, and have a look at the positioning as well as the boundary line. Yeah, great. Any questions further to what's been asked? Okay, there being no more questions, moving forward to agenda item number 12, which is Organisational Services Network. 12.1 is the 23-24 budget amendments. I'll go through the recommendation here. The recommendation is that by an absolute majority, the Council approves the following changes to the 23-24 statutory estimates. Revenue, the net increase in revenue from external grants and contributions of $200,000. Expenses, the net increase in operations expenditure at $8,501. Capital works expenditure, the net increase in expenditure from external funds of $200,000, and the increase in council's funded expenditure at $191,499. Recommendation 2 notes the amendments from recommendation 1, and recommendation 3 receives the report. Do I have somebody to move that recommendation? Councillor Deputy Mayor Mackenzie? A seconder, Councillor Harris? Deputy Mayor.
Before I speak to it, I just wonder whether the acting CEO could just give a little bit more detail on the items that the boiler replacement cost budget is being transferred to, particularly the Cataract Gorge inclinator and the Lamont House renewal.
Acting CEO.
So the Lamont House renewal, that's about making primarily accessible improvements. So there is no access toilet or accessible ramps. So that's investment in that infrastructure plus some other accessibility issues, and there's some minor structural issues that it needs to be invested in. The Cataract Gorge inclinator, it was raised to me this morning around access to the gorge. So, which I agree on. So the inclinator's at the end of its life. It's not performing well, but the scope of the work needs to consider more broadly access and entry into the gorge. Yeah, and the project will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I stand to speak for it. I mean, we've got a $200,000 grant that's come in from the government. We now need to recognise that in our budget, so that's just a normal process of actually increasing our budget income to reflect that and the expenditure that goes with it. In relation to the other matters, I think they've been reasonably explained in regards to the need to do things to the crematorium that need to be dealt with. The other items which we've just been asked, what I've just asked about, is just really transferring from one capital project to another. And the reason for doing that, I think, has been outlined and further explained by the acting CEO. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, and I'll also start with a question because $300,000 for the Gorge restaurant chimney replacement does seem a rather large amount of money. I wonder if there's any background or other that you might be able to provide as to the reasons why we're spending that on a property that we obviously lease to an operator to run the restaurant, and if they're making any contribution, etc.
Obviously, under the lease, it's our responsibility to fix the structure of the building. And unfortunately, that's what it costs to fix the chimney.
In accordance with the Heritage Code too.
Yeah, thank you. I guess having known the restaurant, I suspect there's more than just the chimney that we're replacing or improving because it is a heritage building and I'm sure has lots of issues.
Councillor Harris, we might find some further information if we throw to Michael Newby.
Thank you.
Sorry. So the scope includes dismantle and rebuild of the fireplace, chimney, inclusive of new concrete footing and internal baffle in equivalent external appearance. Works may also include or be necessary ancillary repairs to affected joinery and rainwater goods such as windows, walls, plates, floor, eaves, gutters, etc. And the report within the council agenda also makes reference to sprinklers for fire safety.
Thank you.
Thank you to the officer, and that has answered my question fairly well. I do thank you for that. And as such, I have nothing more to add other than, as Councillor Mackenzie said, this is something we do regularly to move money in and out from operational to expenses as needs to when grants are approved or if in fact jobs aren't proceeding. So this really is just business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Pentridge.
I'll allow to be asked to sit down if I've got it wrong. My understanding is we've been given another $200,000 from the state government to put into our budgets for works that need to be done. I personally can't, instead of just handing that $200,000 over and then allowing the administration to make whatever decisions, shouldn't that be a decision that's made by this table? And would it be appropriate or inappropriate that I haven't got a problem in there's overruns and this money need to be spent, but wouldn't it be more prudent, if that's the right terminology, that we know where it's going, that we've got the money there, and if and when it's required, how long would it take to come back to the table and say, well, right, we need to draw on that money, we need to do this, instead of just signing off and then...
So instead of making a conclusion of that thought, let's turn that question and say, what's the process when we get a grant? What's the process? And then we can question the process. Let's not come to a conclusion. But yeah, I think that's
you putting it into words. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yep. So we'll direct that question to the CEO, just around the process of when grants come in and where the priorities lie and how it's distributed.
I'm going to say, in terms of this grant, I'm going to say this is on the back of a notice of motion of council. So we were given the direction to progress the skate park. There was funding opportunities, and we thought it was appropriate to leverage our money with additional state money at the time.
So does that explain that one then, Councillor Pentridge? So at the time, a notice of motion was brought forward. So this is probably something we haven't actually seen in our time at the start, that it was a project that was ongoing and they saw fit to also leverage and invest into that project. Councillor Walker?
Yeah, thank you, and I will stand to support these amendments. And I appreciate Councillor Pentridge, through you, Chair, concerns, but ultimately I suppose we are making the decision right now, so that is the point. If someone does have an issue with any of these, they are free to move to amend or withdraw them as they see fit. I too had my concerns about money being spent on the gorge inclinator. It's been there for quite a while. It's always been a bit of a noisy, grinding machine. I think originally it was part of a federal government grant to build it. I think it was $250,000, probably about 15 or 20 years ago. And it's had its issues over the years. I think we all know that. Nonetheless, if this scope of this can be widened.
Councillor Walker, we can get a little bit of clarification around what is the finer detail around the inclinator if you would like some further information right now.
I've been assured that the scope will be widened when we talk about Cataract Gorge inclinator investigation of a design solution for delivery in a future year can be widened to being a broader investigation into access for the gorge.
Okay.
I suppose is all that's required there. The inclinator, quite simply just needs money thrown at it on a regular basis in order to keep it functional, it would appear. I don't think it's sort of, rocket science, how it works. It's more a matter that it does require maintenance, upgrading, those types of things. So, as I say, I'm quite happy to stand here and support that today, as well as the others. I will ask a question in regards to the upgrades at Lamont House, just to clarify the change of use that is listed there. Just what is the current status there, and what is the change of use that that we're looking at to spend $150,000. Thank you, Chair.
CEO?
I don't think it's more so a change of use, but actually use. It hasn't been used for a number of years. There's a want to get back in and get the community garden up and running. The building's not suitable to support that use.
Any further questions or comments around the table? Deputy Mayor, as the mover, would you like to close?
Yeah, thank you. And I think, from my clear understanding, the $200,000 we received was specifically for the Royal Park. So we don't actually have any choice. It was actually sought to enable us to do the Royal Park skate park improvements. I thank you for the responses in regards to the inclinator. I think a broader scope on access into the Cataract Gorge is a better use of that money than just focusing on the inclinator, because there may be other solutions that may be far better than that going forward. I think the Lamont House, because I think we're about to have a change of tenant from Youth Futures to the Migrant Resource Centre as well, so there's probably things that need to be done there. Lamont House has always been a difficult part of our history, but it's in the middle of the garden and needs to be made access friendly and various things that need to be done. So I take on board that they're the issues that need to be dealt with to enable it to be utilised. Thank you for your question on the Gorge Restaurant chimney. I think there's certainly heritage, and I think, as we talked about in this forum previously, the need to continue to spend and upgrade our gorge facilities is something we as a council, to our major asset, need to be continuing to invest in. And I think, it's been there for a long time. The improvements that Mr Newby outlined, I think, certainly are well overdue and needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Putting it to the vote then, all of those in favour? That is all councillors present. The motion is carried. And I believe the meeting is closed at 1:59. See you in a fortnight.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. Priority projects.
Well, the meeting's finished.